GALA Games is up 250% from the beginning of the year to now, and because of that, a lot of you are asking me, Tyler, what is going on? What's going to happen next? Should we be buying? Should we be selling? And my goal for today is to let you know exactly how I'm looking at GALA, what I'm expecting to happen, and what I'm doing as a result of that. So with that said, let's not waste any more time at all, and let's get straight into today's video. So first and foremost, let's just start off with a review of everything that has happened over the last few weeks. Well, obviously one of the biggest things that we did see was the breakout of this huge macro trend line that we've been stuck within realistically since about 13 months ago in December of 2021. We had multiple instances where we would come up towards this trend line, but we were unable to clear it up until we saw it break on January 8th of 2023. Now we all know that just breaking a downward sloping trend line is not enough to say that we are, going to start a bull market or that there's some type of macro move coming. Realistically, it could just be a bit of a fake out that leads right back into this channel, or we just see a huge pullback that doesn't really amount to anything. Now, what's important is that once we get this breakout here, we're also capable of coming back up to our most recent macro high and clearing that level. Once we're capable of seeing a higher high in the macro sense, then we can start to say, oh, we may be in a great position to actually start to see a change in the tide. And over the next few months, although things may start to slow down, at least we are seeing a change in momentum that could lead to some type of uptrend or growth, maybe towards the middle or end of the year. And that's exactly what we saw. We got to move all the way back up to this previous high around 5 cents, and we then did break it, establishing this new higher high above the most recent macro higher high. So obviously once this happened, this was a fantastic sign, and I do believe that it is like the leading indicator right now that GALA could be in position to see some more macro growth over the long term. Okay, not necessarily right now, but over the long term. I do believe that with all of these new partnerships they've brought on, the change in business model and all of those things will be extremely important, and I think that is bringing enough value to start to again change the tide for GALA Games' future. Now, looking at it from the short term though, now that I've gotten the bullishness of the long term out the way, we need to talk about a bit of what's happening in the short term because it does seem to be a bit bearish, at least in my opinion. Let's talk about it. So looking at what is happening right now, we can see a couple things that give us bearish implications that a pullback is likely on the way. What we can see here is that we are in an ascending structure. Ascending structures generally do break to the downside. I know it looks great because we are getting higher highs and higher lows, but in the sense of what is actually happening, this is just a cool down from this macro move in which we were seeing, which is the reason why we are seeing the bearish divergence forming on the RSI as it starts to trend down, right? You can see high, lower highs forming, but we have these higher highs forming on the price itself. This bearish divergence, which is a sign to show, okay, this move is starting to slow down. And typically speaking, unless some big news shoots this thing out of this little sideways channel right here, we will usually see a rollover towards the downside. And so because of that, I always am aware like, hey, this could very well break to the downside and we're likely to come revisit back towards the 4 cent level, if not the 3.5 level. Now, on top of all of that, if we do look at something like the weekly Bollinger Bands, you guys can see that on a macro sense, we are a bit overextended. We did come touch the top of the Bollinger Band envelope. Generally speaking, for cryptos, when you do touch the top side of your Bollinger Band envelope, you will see some type of resortment back towards your 20 SMA. You can see it happen right back here, right? The moment we touched the bottom side, we came back up to that 20 SMA. And I wouldn't expect anything different realistically from the upside here. Now, it doesn't have to be right now, and this thing very well may start to trend upwards before that happens, and it could be a small pullback, but we will come back to that 20 SMA at some point, and you need to be wary of it because, again, that could look like some type of pullback as low as 4 cents, if not to 0.035. So overall, whenever I look at this, I start to say, okay, well, this feels like a pullback is likely. So let's talk about the two different outcomes, if a pullback does happen or if a pullback doesn't happen. My goal on this channel is to not be right. People in crypto have it misconstrued. We're not supposed to be right as influencers. We're supposed to do our best to prepare our audiences for what possibly could happen. So let me help prepare you here. Now, if a pullback does happen, what I would say is that there are a couple levels of support that very well could hold this up and create a higher low for continuation. I would say the two main ones are 0.042 and 0.036. Generally speaking, when you break from an ascending structure, you're going to come back down to the previous times that you touched the support there. And so realistically, we have 0.042, which could bounces, and 0.036 that could bounces. If neither one of those bounce the price back up to the upside, I would then start to expect the price to pull as low as this 0.0275 level to come retest this previous point of resistance, and so that could be quite a strong capitulation to the downside once they're lost. So mark off those levels. If you do start to see a break to the downside, look for one of those to hold, and if they do hold, that could be a decent buying opportunity for the price to continue back up a little bit towards the top side to come retest this previous high. But if these levels do not hold, again, I would expect some type of capitulation that could look like a move as far as 40 to 50% from where we are now, but from these levels, that is a move of 20 to 25%. So obviously you can prepare for that as necessary. Now, if this does not break to the downside, and if we get some good news or the market generally just turns around and we do get a push to the upside, personally speaking, I'd be looking for two things to happen. First and foremost, I would be looking for this to actually break out of this ascending structure. I wouldn't be buying this while we are within this, because at some given point, again, the further up we go, the more likely we are that we're going to come pulling back to the downside somewhere around these levels. But if we're capable of breaking above these levels, if we're capable of breaking out, and we can clear about 5593, let's call it 0.056, I think that on a couple daily closes above 0.056, we're in position to see a move back towards the upside, in which we do come back up to retest this previous high at 7379, right back up here. Okay, so overall there could be one more move to the top side here, although we are getting this daily bearish divergence. We may see some type of macro daily divergence in which it looks like this. We set this high, we come back up, set the higher high, but on a macro sense we set the lower high, and then the pullback happens. But I do believe the pullback will happen one way or another. It's just all about figuring out if that's going to happen now, or if we have one more move to the top side before that does happen. So overall, you can see that I am expecting a pullback. Everything is pointing towards a pullback, and everything is also pointing towards a weakening of this move to the top side. 250% moves do correct 30, 40, 50%. So don't think that's impossible. And the best thing that you can do is simply just prepare for either outcome. If you do believe in GALA, if you think that there's a lot of potential for it, buying at these levels whenever we could possibly be seeing even further continuation, right? Buying here when we could say retrace all the way back up to what could be 25, 35, 45 cents anywhere up here isn't a terrible idea. But that's if you're in it for the long term. If you're in it for the short term, I definitely would be extremely careful right now and not be committing to anything super big, especially on leverage, because the likelihood is some type of pullback is much more likely than some type of shot to the upside such as this. Okay, now I do want to let you guys know, if you want to keep up with all things crypto, I did start a newsletter. You can see it here is the crypto catch up. This was the first edition that we sent out today, in which I gave some news, I gave a little bit of a glance at crypto, I did some technical analysis just from me. This is purely my TA on a bunch of things like XRP, ADA, Ethereum, BNB, Dogecoin, Polygon, and then I gave my general thoughts about where the market is right now, and then provided some links. So if you do want access to this and you can stay completely up to date every Monday and every Friday, do go to the first link in the description and you can subscribe to the newsletter. It's completely for free. So for GALA Games, although I do believe a short-term pullback is likely, the long-term still seems pretty optimistic to me, and there is going to be a lot of headwind. There's a lot of things in front of us with this entire crypto market, but GALA is doing a fantastic job at figuring everything out and trying to put itself in a much better position, and I do believe that very well could pay off. And so if you are a GALA bull, big congratulations, especially if you were buying at some of those levels. You could be up hundreds of percentages at this point, but if you're waiting to get in on GALA, I definitely think just taking it slow and being extremely patient right now will very likely pay off, especially over the next few weeks. But with that said, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video, and I hope you guys did enjoy the update of what all is going on with GALA Games. If you did, you can always let me know again by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new, and I will see you all next time. Peace.